Hi everyone, thanks for joining us in week 4 of the AdSense 10 challenge. In today's Hangout on Air, we're talking specifically about Google Analytics. We're going to meet a few members of the AdSense team who have a really strong understanding of Google Analytics. We'll learn a little bit about their background, we'll hear their thoughts on best practices and strategy tips. But before we begin, let's actually go around the room and meet some of the guests that are here with us today. Guests, can you please answer the following 3 questions? 1, please tell us your name. 2, tell us about your relationship with AdSense. And 3, tell us a little bit about what brought you here with us today. Let's start with Jamal.
Hello everyone. My name is Jamal and I'm the Strategic Account Manager for Turkey. I'm with Google since 3 years, and I've worked in different teams like AdWords and now with the partnership team. I'm here because I want to share my experience regarding AdSense and analytics and my account management experience as well. Hi to everyone.
Great, thanks Jamal. Next, let's talk to Russ. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So I'm Russ Ketchum. I'm the lead product manager for Google Analytics publisher and content related features, also Google Analytics for mobile apps. I've been with Google for a little over 6 years at this point, and I'm here today because I'm part of the GA team and would never miss an opportunity to help our users understand how to use our product a little bit better.
Great, Russ. It's really great to have you here. Some of you might actually recognize our next guest. He was with us in week 2 when we talked specifically about performance reports. But just in case, Matt, can you give us a brief introduction one more time?
Sure. So hi everybody, my name's Matt Goodrich. I'm a product manager on AdSense for performance reports. My particular interest in Google Analytics is that I'm looking at how does AdSense, performance reports and analytics work together to make sure you've got all the insights that we can possibly offer you. So looking at what data do we get in analytics from performance reports so that you can get those insights.
Great, thanks Matt. So far in the challenge we've been talking a lot about data. A lot of our guests have stressed just how important it is to look at things like performance reports and statistics to really understand what's going on and how to really move forward and take the next step and figure out what to test. With that in mind, I think it might be pretty helpful to ask one clarification question before we dive in. The question I'd like to ask here is, what is the difference between the performance reports tab that you get in your AdSense account and the type of information you would get through Google Analytics? Let's start with Jamal for this question. Jamal, I imagine this comes up pretty frequently as an account manager. What do you tell your publishers when they ask you about this?
Yes. First of all, it is very important to mention that they are different products. So Google Analytics is a different product than Google AdSense. And this means that they have different tracking mechanisms in terms of tracking the interactions, behavior, and revenue. AdSense is using AdSense ad code to track revenue-related metrics, including click-through rate, CPC, ad impressions, fill rate, etc. Whereas Google Analytics is using analytics tracking code, and as a result, it tracks different metrics. Some of them are behavioral, and some of them are conversion-related. And this is the reason why we get different reports in the interface. And in addition to that, I should say that Google Analytics is a much wider product than what AdSense can provide in terms of reporting. AdSense mainly focused on revenue-related metrics, as I said, CPC, fill rates, etc. Whereas in Analytics, you can find unique visitor numbers, average visit duration, bounce rate, traffic source related metrics, conversion and attribution metrics as well. So these are the main differences between 2 different products.
Okay, so different products, different tracking mechanisms, and a different variety of reports that you can find either using Google Analytics or using AdSense. Matt, what about you? What do you think are the main differences between the 2?
So I'd certainly agree with Jamal that on all of his great points. The way I look at it is AdSense is about reporting, is about the ads and what are the ads doing on your site, and analytics is about what are the users doing on your site. And clearly there's lots of overlap between them, but the focus is different. And that's what really drives the different kinds of insights that you can get from each of the tools, depending on what exactly that you're looking at. So if you're looking at how do my page views turn into money, then AdSense Performance Reports is the detailed tool to use. If you're looking at, okay, how do my visitors showing up then turn into views, and how do they navigate around the site, then that's analytics. And there's a piece of analytics which will show you how that eventually turns into money as well, but at a lower level of granularity in terms of the metrics that are available than in AdSense Performance Reports.
All right, thanks, Matt. And Russ, how would you explain the difference between AdSense Performance Reports and Google Analytics?
So I think Matt and Jamal have both touched on it, and that's that analytics, lost my light. Analytics.
There we go.
Sorry about that. Analytics takes a broad approach when it comes to the metrics that it provides, and we're focused on what we call the A/B analytics. And so that's acquisition, behavior, and conversion. So when you're talking about acquisition, you're talking about how users are coming to your site or your app. You're talking about behavior, it's how they're interacting once they're there. And conversion is where you're actually measuring the results of those actions while they've been on the site. And so where AdMob lives is kind of between that behavior and conversion. I'm sorry, where AdSense lives is kind of between that behavior and conversion area. And it's about, in analytics, showing how that piece relates in context to those other areas. So it's just a broad approach that it takes.
Great. So it sounds like there's a lot of different ways to look at Google Analytics and your AdSense Performance Reports, but at the end of the day, it is really helpful to link the two. As a follow-up question, actually, are there specific features that are available in Google Analytics that you can't get with AdSense alone? I think we've touched a little bit about this in the previous question, but it's also good to expand for the viewers tuning in right now. Jamal, what do you think?
Yeah, let me detail the first question, I think. So there are different reports in Google Analytics which are not available in AdSense, such as audience-related metrics in Google Analytics, such as bounce rate, time on site metrics, exit rate, or new and returning visitor information, and frequency of the visit, and another report like visitor flow, which are not available in Google AdSense. There are also some content-related reports in Google Analytics, for example, in-page analytics, which is quite important for publishers, and content drill-down reporting, site search and site speed related metrics. They are important reports in Google Analytics which are not available in AdSense. And especially traffic source related reports like keyword reporting and the tools like experiments don't exist in AdSense. So there are, but it's also important to mention that there are some reports in Google AdSense which do not exist in Analytics as well. So this is another discussion. Maybe very quickly I can talk about a specific example. I manage some e-commerce partners in my country, and we benefit from lots of different analytics reports like the conversion information per different sections of the page, or the conversion information per pages to shape the monetization strategy of the partner. So based on the reports which exist in Analytics and which do not exist in Analytics, we change our monetization or we improve our monetization strategy. So this is very important in terms of optimization purposes.
Great. Thanks, Jamal. Matt, anything to add to that?
Yeah, so going back to the previous point of AdSense very much focusing on the life cycle of an ad. So if you look in performance reports and drop down the columns drop down in the top right hand corner there, you can go to different metric families and see the life cycle of an ad request. So you start off with page views and have metrics specific to centric around page views, and that's the beginning really of the life cycle of an ad. That's where the ad requests are generated from a page view. And then the next one is ad request centric. So okay, now we're down to ad requests. What happens to an ad request, and what's the revenue that you associate with an ad request and clicks, etc. And then the next stage is matched requests, so that when the request has been through the auction and there's an ad that has been served, or a series of ads that's been served in the case of text ads, then that's a matched request, and you can understand the granular metrics around that state. And then we turn into individual ad impressions, which is then looking at, and it's particularly relevant for text ads, where you have multiple text ads within an ad unit. What are the metrics related to each one of those sort of sub-slots, if you will? So AdSense really tells the story of each individual ad impression in that way, whereas analytics is much more user-focused, and it's the life cycle of how does the user get around the site and then turn into money. So everything from seeing referral sites, anything from search engines to social networks, and then how does the user navigate through the site, all the way through to, well, what are the exit pages? And one really interesting thing about exit pages in AdSense is, well, if your users are going to leave your site anyway, then shouldn't they be following an ad which generates you money than just falling off the site? So those are the kind of the key features that I think differentiate the two products.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Russ, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think both Matt and Jamal have done a great job highlighting some of the broad range of features and reporting that exists in analytics. I actually want to touch on something that relates to Matt's last point around exits and exit pages. So a new metric that we're creating for Google Analytics that we're launching in the next couple weeks in a few different places is the concept of an AdSense exit. So for people who are familiar with analytics, we have a feature called flow viz, or flow visualizations. And we use these to show how people are flowing from one page to another page or from one event to another event. And a concept of all our flow visualizations is an exit. And up until this point, those have kind of been framed as, you know, a negative event where people are leaving your site, presumably to go elsewhere. We've now worked with the AdSense team and have split that out into exits and then AdSense exits, where we can actually visualize how people are leaving your site as a result of following an AdSense ad. So we've added that to our flow visualization just to further clarify how the two products relate together.
Great. Thanks, Russ. I think that's going to be a feature a lot of publishers are going to look out for in the next couple of weeks. So for my next question, one of my favorite things about Google Analytics is the dashboards. Courtney talked about this briefly yesterday in her presentation. You know, I think you can create up to 20 dashboards, and you can, you know, each dashboard can contain up to 12 widgets. The flexibility of these dashboards really lend a lot of information and a lot of opportunities to customize. And given this information, in your opinion, what are some of the most popular dashboards our viewers should be testing with Google Analytics? Jamal, what are your thoughts for this one?
The answer to the question depends on your goals and your targets. So there is no one answer for this question. If you would ask my favorite dashboard, I would say that I'm using a dashboard summarizing some stats, summarizing the event activity and time on site metrics and pages per visit metrics, because I want to track the metrics for my personal blog. So my target is the tracking and improving of my personal blog. But if you have a different business, then you will answer with a different metrics related dashboard. So first of all, if your focus is the revenue, if you want to increase the revenue, you should focus on AdSense related dashboards. There are AdSense-related dashboards on the Google Solutions Gallery. So when you go to the Analytics web page and when you navigate to the Learning section, then you will see a Solutions Gallery with lots of dashboards and custom reports. Depending on your target and goal, you can select respective dashboard to download. So if you focus on revenue, my suggestion is to download to the AdSense related dashboard to track the AdSense related metrics in your Google Analytics account when your AdSense account is linked to the Analytics account. In addition to that, I would also suggest you to try the site speed or site performance dashboard, which is also available in the solutions gallery, to see the metrics like average page load time, redirection time, server connection time, and some technical stuff in the one report. So maybe you can share this dashboard with your technical teams or with the people who are interested in improving your site performance. And this is the report, the dashboard that you need to share. Additionally, I also suggest you to have a dashboard related to the social media, because social media is the reality of today, and you have lots of activity on different social platforms, including Google+. So if you have a social media dashboard, which is again available in the solutions gallery, you can track social media related metrics like the interactions, Google+, interaction numbers, etc. in that dashboard. So these three dashboards, AdSense related dashboard, site speed related dashboard, and social media related dashboard are my suggestions to try at least. Then you can customize them anytime.
Great, thanks Jamal. For those of you live streaming the event right now, you can do a quick search on your laptop for Google Analytics Solutions Gallery, and it should be the first query that pops up. For those of you live streaming from Google+ right now, I'll update the event page after this session with the exact URL you can use to access the Solutions Gallery and take a look at a couple of the dashboards Jamal suggested. Matt, what do you think for this question?
So I think Jamal's given a great sort of overview of everything. There's one widget that I would particularly call out at this point, and it's something that AdSense performance reporting particularly lacks, is being able to break down by URL and to be able to see what are the top 10 or so highest performing URLs by revenue is actually really helpful. It saves you having to create URL channels in AdSense, but also it means that you don't have to have created a URL channel before you actually get the numbers. You get the numbers for all URL channel or all URLs, and then if you want to track that in AdSense, then you just create a URL channel for that URL that you've seen in that is high performing in Analytics, and then you can track it in both places. So yeah, check out URLs by or the AdSense performance data.
Great, thanks Matt. So in yesterday's presentation, and we're touching about it a little bit right now as well, it sounds like there's a wealth of information available on Google Analytics. Just as a reminder, this is just part one. Next week we'll also be talking about Google Analytics, but so far it sounds like we already have a wealth of information. Given that insight, is there a specific report or functionality within Google Analytics that you're particularly fond of and would encourage publishers to explore? Jamal, what are your thoughts for this one?
Yeah, there are many. There are many. But first of all, I want to mention that if you link your Google Analytics account and your AdSense accounts, then the number of the reports and the granularity of the information that you can deep dive increases. So I strongly suggest you to link your accounts, and then you can find lots of reports which could be very important for your business, which also have an outlook from the revenue perspective as well. So if you would ask my favorite report, I would say that in-page analytics report under the content section of Google Analytics is my favorite report, in-page analytics. Why? Because, you know, I'm working with Turkish publishers, and we are doing lots of optimizations, and in-page analytics report is one of the most beautiful reports which helps me to optimize the ad placements, especially to increase the click-through rates. So based on the data that the in-page analytics report provides, you can see the interaction areas on your site. In other words, you can see the click areas. So which means that if you see that an interaction happens on the specific part of your page, this means that that part of your page is more valuable. So based on this information, you can optimize your ad unit placements. So very quickly, I can talk about a specific example that I had with one of my forum publishers. You know, in the forums, there are, in the bottom of the page, there are pagination links, which lead people to navigate to the other side of the thread. So we just checked the in-page analytics report of my publisher, and we observed that the pagination link area is very active area, so meaning that lots of visitors click the links on the pagination bar. Based on that information, we moved one of the ad units just above the pagination bar so that people become more aware about the ad, and as a result, we saw like 85% increase in the click-through rate for that ad unit. So this was one of the nice examples that I had with in terms of the optimization with analytics data.
Great, thanks, Shamal. Matt, what do you think? What's your favorite report that's available in Google Analytics?
Can I have two?
Two works.
So I have two. The first one, and this is particularly relevant when you've connected your AdSense account to analytics, is the referrers report. So with that, not only can you see which sites are referring traffic to you the most, but by looking at then the AdSense revenue and the RPM that you get from users that come from those traffic sources, you can work out what's your SEO strategy going to be to maximize your revenue. So you might look at, well, which of those referrers that are giving me higher value visitors, so visitors that are more likely to click on ads, and you might investigate, well, how do you get those channels to send you more traffic? You might also look at those channels that are particularly low performing and say, well, how do I make those channels higher performing? How do I get them to those visitors? What is it about those visitors that makes them poor performing when it comes to clicking ads? So that's one area I'd focus. The other one is on the browser and operating system report, and that's really helpful when you're looking at creating a mobile version of your site. When you're looking at responsive design and how that performs in terms of CTR and revenue, you can identify whether there are any particular issues with your responsive design by looking at the amount of revenue or the RPM you get for different screen sizes and for different operating systems. And that can be really helpful to make sure you've got a consistently good performing site across all device types.
All right, thanks, Matt. Russ, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough question because I think there's a lot of great reports, and it really depends on what type of user you are. So, for example, in our mobile app profiles, we have a whole slew of reporting just for mobile apps, which I think is super exciting. But if I had to pick one that really resonates with the AdSense audience, I definitely look at the reports we provide around our content experiments suite of features. And so content experiments really makes Google Analytics into a native A/B testing platform, and when you start using experimentation, it gives you a whole new set of reports around specifically how one variation of a page or set of elements on a page is performing compared to another's. And I think that comparative analysis and programmatic optimization that we do on your behalf are pretty powerful.
Great, thank you. Next question. Can you give us a couple examples, actually, of how publishers can use content experiments to make better decisions and to improve their site performance? Jamal, do you have an example for us?
Yeah, first of all, experimentation is maybe one of the most important things that the partners, publishers should focus on, because it's one of the most important mindsets to optimize your revenue. So that's why Google Content Experiments is one of the greatest reports in Google Analytics to experiment different layouts for better CTRs, for better revenue metrics, and for other metrics that you care about. So let me give a specific example. Here in EMEA, we had a publisher who has an operation in online bidding and product reviews related to the online bidding. So our goal was like to improve the overall user experience and to increase user engagement. So first of all, you should set your goals, which is the most important thing. You should define what you want to measure and what you want to improve. So our focus, we defined a focus which was the product review pages, which were the main landing pages after organic search. And as an action, we regrouped and labeled related content and affiliate links on the site, such as where to buy, top-rated product link, top-rated products, most popular products sections, etc. And we simplified the design. And we made product rating stand out, and we improved the ad placements of Google AdSense. And we did an A/B testing. So in the end of the period of the testing, we saw like 171% of increase in on-site interactions, bringing 21% more clicks on affiliate links, and 50% uplift in AdSense revenue. So this was a great result for us, but we didn't stop there. So we still continue experimenting on getting higher and higher metrics, the metrics that we care. So this is the most important example and experience that I had ever with Google content experiments. But the most important thing is that we should continue experimenting.
Great. Thanks, Jamal. Russ, for this one, do you have any additional advice to what Jamal's already said? And actually, as a follow-up question, let's say someone's already doing content experiments. What kind of advice do you have for them to really understand what to do next?
Sure. So I think Jamal made actually a bunch of great points, and one of the ones that I want to highlight is that really experimentation shouldn't be looked at as a one-time activity. It should be looked at as something that you do as a publisher on an ongoing basis. And when you take that approach, you then can want to prioritize the different experiments that you would want to run. And I always suggest that publishers start with whatever their objective is. It needs to be something big. It needs to be a very strong signal. And that way, it's that much easier and that much more quick that you can observe results of the experiment. Sometimes people will try to do experiments around a pretty nuanced objective, and it takes a long time, or sometimes you don't ever see results because it's just such an activity that occurs so infrequently. The other thing is to think about how you're implementing content experiments. So up until recently, there was only one answer to that question, and that was to use the content experiments JavaScript. We recently launched the content experiments API, and that allows publishers a lot more flexibility in terms of how they implement content experiments, and depending on the sophistication, you can actually use content experiments as a experimentation platform, and that can plug directly into your content management system, however you want to implement it, and it really makes experimentation native functionality of your site. And so up until this point, I think the content experiments JavaScript has been a great option for easy experimentation, and as publishers mature and become more experienced, or even are just getting started, frankly, the API opens up the door for a lot more potential in terms of how experiments are implemented.
Great. Thanks, Russ. So it looks like we're running out of time, but I know there's a lot of information covered today. So with that in mind, any last parting words for viewers tuning online? Jamal, anything?
I have 3 words, or I have a motto consisting of 3 words. Test, measure, and improve. So never end testing. Then based on the result of the testing, measure the outcome and improve the metrics that you care about. But don't stop there. Then create another cycle of testing, measurement, and improvement.
Okay, that's a really good motto. You should trademark that. Matt, anything you want to tell our publishers? One last thing about Google Analytics?
I just reinforce a point that we've made, or a number of us have made already, is if you haven't already, link your AdSense and Analytics accounts together, because that brings AdSense data into Analytics, and you can get a whole raft of new insights about how your site's performing.
Great, thanks, Matt. Russ, anything?
I'm going to underscore that same linking your accounts together as well, because it truly does open the door for a number of features that don't just exist on their own in Google Analytics. And until you do that, a lot of our users are missing out on some great features just there below the surface.
All right, so that's going to be the end of today's session. For those of you streaming right now, we hope this has been helpful. Next week, we're going to talk about Google Analytics again, but we're going to talk a little bit more about custom reports and automated reports, so please tune in. If you would like to rewatch this session or anything from the weeks prior, definitely check out our Help Center. All the recordings will be there. 2 final reminders before we go. The first one, if you have any questions on this week's topic, definitely bring them to office hours tomorrow, Friday at 11 o'clock. It'll be on the Google Plus page, and someone from our AdSense team will do their best to help you. Let us know what you think, actually, of this week's activities by filling in the check-in survey that's available on the Google Plus event page right now. Your feedback is going to be really important to us as we continue to move forward. And finally, I just want to say one final thank you to Jamal, to Matt, and to Russ for joining us today. And for everyone else tuning in online right now, I'll see you tomorrow at office hours. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.